folks made the mistake of electing me as moderator. So you're supposed to now open the meeting until we actually get to the warnings, which are the official re-elections of moderator, and proceed on down. I really appreciate those of you who are here tonight, and I am sad that some of the others couldn't come because we have a very important set of topics to discuss. We gather tonight to fulfill the legal requirements of the 2019 River Valley Unified School District's first annual meeting. This is a privilege of governing. You, the voters, you people here, will vote and govern tonight. That's not an option that's allowed people in the Congo. It's not fairly done in Venezuela. And we are privileged to be in the land of the free where we can vote our consciences. I ask that you respect each other, generating more light than heat. I've handed out the rules of the game, which you have in front of you, and I would ask that you adhere to them. The legal voters of the town of Dover and Wardsboro, Vermont, are hereby notified and warned that pursuant to Title 17 VSA Section 2655, they are to meet at the Wardsboro Town Hall in Wardsboro, Vermont on Tuesday, February the 12th, 2019 at 7 p.m. to act upon the following articles, to wit, Articles 9, 10, 11, and 12. 9, 10, and 11, 12 are to be voted by Australian ballot at the town meeting in Dover and Wardsboro on town meeting day, March the 5th, 2019. So if you flip to the back of the warning, you'll see that they are there and that is when they will be voted. Are there any questions so far? The polls will open for Australian ballot voting at 10 a.m. and remain open until 7 p.m. on the town meeting day, March 5th, 2019 in Dover and Wardsboro. Any questions? If there are no objections, I will continue on and open Article first. Are there any objections? Seeing none and hearing none, I ask that you put Article 1 on the floor to elect a moderator to serve for the fiscal year July 1, 2019 to June 30th, 2020, to set a stipend of $200 for the moderator. Nominations are open for moderator. Excuse me? Rich.
I'd like to move that we elect Robert Backus as our moderator for the fiscal year July 1, 2019 to June 30th, 2020, and to set a stipend of $200 for the moderator.
I'll second that.
Who is that, please?
Sarah Shippey.
Thank you. Are there any further nominees to be brought before this body? Seeing none and hearing none, we will invoke the usual motion. Ms. Backus.
I move that the town clerk be instructed to cast one vote for Robert Backus for the position of moderator for the term of July 1st, 2019 to June 30th, 2020, and to receive a stipend of $200.
Is there any discussion? Hearing none, seeing none, are you ready for the vote? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none and seeing none, Robert Backus is elected to serve as moderator. Thank you for the privilege. It is a privilege. Article 2. To elect a clerk to serve for the fiscal year July 1, 2019 to June 30th, 2020, and to set a stipend for $2,400 for the clerk. I need to clarify that this is not just the old clerk concept. This is an extremely, somewhat odious and difficult task. So we need to move Article 2. Would somebody like to move it?
So moved.
So moved by Carol Backus. Is there a second?
Second, Sarah Shippey.
Sarah, sorry?
Sarah Shippey.
Sarah Shippey seconded. Thank you. Any discussion? Nominations are now open to elect the clerk to serve for the fiscal year July 1, 2019 to June 30th, 2020, set a stipend of $2,400 for the clerk. It's hard to see with these lights, so if you just shout out if you're going to nominate someone. Any nominations?
I'd like to nominate Andy McLean as clerk.
Andy McLean
second.
is nominated
Capitani.
and is seconded. Andy, how say you?
I'll serve if they elect me.
All right. Is there any discussion or any further nomination? Seeing none and hearing none, Ms. Backus or someone may invoke the usual.
I move that the town clerk be instructed to cast one vote for Andy McLean for the position of town clerk to serve the fiscal year July 1st, 2019 to June 20th, 2030, June 2020, and to receive a stipend of $2,400.
Are you ready for the question? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none,
Thank you.
Andy McLean is elected. Thank you for serving.
Thank you.
Article 3, to elect a treasurer to serve for the fiscal year, July 1, 2019 to June 30th, 2020, and to set a stipend of $2,400 for the treasurer. Nominations are open.
I'm going to go for the trifecta. I'm going to nominate Marco Tellini for the River Valley's treasurer for the fiscal year, July 1, 2019 to June 30th, 2020, and set a stipend of $2,400 for that position.
Marco Tellini, is it?
Yes,
Thank you.
he's our current treasurer for this year.
Is the current treasurer and has been nominated. Do you know if he's willing to serve?
Yes, he did want everybody to know that he tried to come over tonight. He actually made it as far as my office in Westover and then said he just felt awful and he was going to go home and crash, which was better than crashing here.
I'll second that, Victoria Capitani.
Thank you. Mr. Capitini has been nominated and seconded to serve the fiscal year July 1, 2019 to June 30th, 2020, and set a stipend of $2,400 for the treasurer. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, seeing none, he is elected, and would you please notify him for us and thank him for his service. Article 4, to elect 3 auditors to serve for the fiscal year July 1, 2019, June 30th through June 30th, 2020, and to set a stipend of $200 per auditor. Now, there's various ways of doing this. If you know that there are 3 people who want to take on this task, you can nominate them as a slate and vote it as a slate, which makes it much easier for all of you. Or if you prefer to do it one by one, we can do it that way. Which way would you like me to instruct these guys to do it? Any comments?
I would suggest as a slate, but I don't know who is.
All right. Would you give us the names of the people you know who are willing to run?
Well, that's going to be tough because we only have one person so agreed to run. But they said that there may be a lot of very willing people at the meeting tonight. So Bob McIntyre, who's a auditor for the town of Dover, he lives in Eastover and he could not be here tonight, but I did speak with him and he's willing to serve if you folks would so elect him. But he does have a Tuesday night commitment, so it was hard for him to come to this tonight. But he is willing to serve, and that was the only one that that contacted the board.
All right, then let's proceed with Mr. McIntyre's nomination.
Can you tell us what the job is?
You want to explain the auditor's job?
Yes, Mr. Antone looked it up, the definition, and he will tell us.
Aren't you at the UK?
There's 2 major duties. One is to review the audit of the district, and the other is to review annually the check register.
Did everyone hear what Mr. Anton said? Mr. Anton, can you tell who you are, first of all?
My name is Bill Antone. I'm a superintendent of Wyndham Central Supervisory Union. The main duties of the auditors would be to review the audit of the River Valley School District and to be a second set of eyes on the check register, at least annually.
Thank you, Jim. All right. So we can elect Mr. McIntyre if we have a vote in that direction. Would anyone like to nominate Mr. McIntyre?
Well, I thought Rich did.
I will nominate Mr. McIntyre to serve as one of the auditor positions for the fiscal year July 1, 2019 to June 30th, 2020, and to set a stipend of $200 for that auditor.
Is there a second?
So, yes.
So moved by Carol Beck. Any discussion? Are you ready for the question? All in favor signify by saying aye, please. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, seeing none, thank Mr. McIntyre for serving. Is there anyone else here? Because we have 2 more positions to fill, and we'd like to fill them tonight if you're willing. Is there anyone else here who would like to have their name placed in nomination for one of these remaining 2 positions? If not, the board, once they are, formed, will so move and pick out volunteers and place them in the auditor's position, and then they can run again if they choose to in 2020. Is that clear? Anyone here? Oh, come on, guys. How democracy works. Yes, sir.
All right, I'm willing to work.
State your name.
Randy Capitani.
I would like to make a motion that we elect Randy Capitani as auditor to serve for fiscal year July 1st, 2019 to June 30th, 2020, and set a stipend of $200 for that.
Didn't waste any time, did you?
Your wife was
I
going
will
to hit
second
you.
that, Sarah Shippey.
Thank you, Sarah Shippey will second. So we have a nomination, and we don't seem to have any others raising their hand. So are you ready to call the question?
Yes.
All in favor of electing Mr. Capitani, who very generously offered his services?
Aye.
Thank you. Any opposed? Hearing none, seeing none, you are elected, sir, and thank you very much for volunteering. Is there anyone else out here who would like to volunteer for the 3rd position?
Especially somebody from Wardsboro. Okay.
We're not going to dawdle over this, so if you're going to do it, make up your mind, please. Okay, so this position remains unfilled to be filled at the discretion of the board. That's the joint board, ladies and gentlemen. Before we move on to the River Valley Union School District's Article 5, which is the annual stipend for the school directors, I would like you to introduce yourselves from Rich to the end of the table. And what do you do? Huh?
Maybe Laura first.
Yeah, you do Laura first if you're nice.
So Laura Sibilia is a member from Dover, and she also serves as a state legislator. She had every intention of coming down tonight, but the weather forecast, she thought she'd be a little safer in Montpelier not coming down. But she just wanted everybody to know that she appreciates all your confidence in her and, hopes to continue to serve. She served with this board since the beginning and also served on the Dover School Board for probably 15 years. So she just wanted to thank everybody for their support and make sure that I said that. So somebody tell her I did say it. And then my name is Rich Warner, and I'm the chairman of the River Valleys Board. I served on the search committee with several people, Dwight, Randy Capitani out there. I believe Laura was on that committee. I've also been chairman of Wyndham Central for several years and chairman in Dover for like 24 years. And thank you for your support.
My name's Rick Thorpe. I'm from Wardsboro. I'm the vice chair. I'm happy to be here.
Thanks. I'm Dwight Borum, representative from Wardsboro.
I'm Carrie McDonald-Katie. I'm representative from Dover.
No, Barry Pearson, representative from Wardsboro.
Thank you all for being here, for serving. It's been a long, hard road, hasn't it? Yeah. All right. Would you guys care to make any comments before we keep going, or would you wait? We'll have to wait until we've done the election.
You don't want to talk about having the meeting.
No.
Okay, perfect.
All right. So we've done the articles. Now we're moving on to Article 5. Article 5 reads, shall the voters of the River Valley's Unified School District set the annual stipend for school directors at $2,000 and for the chair at $2,500? This is an up and down vote. It's by majority, and it needs to be moved and seconded.
I'll move the article. Victoria Capitani.
Thank you.
Shall the voters of the River Valley's Unified School District set the annual stipend for the school directors as $2,000 and for the chair $2,500.
I'll second.
Seconded by Carol Backus. Discussion. Hearing none, seeing none. Shall we move the article?
Yes.
Article 5. Sorry I have to read it again, but legalities. Shall the voters of River Valley's Unified School District set the annual stipend for school directors at $2,000 and for the chair at $2,500? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing no opposition, Article 5 passes. Thank you. Article 6. Shall the voters of the River Valley Unified School District set the annual tuition rate to approved independent schools at $17,540 for the 2019-2020 school year? Before I open this, I would like to ask Mr. Anton to comment on what this means, because some people don't quite understand what this number comes from.
Sure.
Thank you.
On the floor first?
No, it will be discussed, but this is a point of information which I just want to get out there before we get going. Go ahead, John.
$17,540 represents the amount of money that a school district pays if you become a sending school in a contract with Burton Academy. The normal rate is $19,540, but if you become a sending school, you just are charged the $2,000 left of $17,540. Is that enough?
That's enough. We want it to be clear each time you vote. If it's not clear, you haul me down and make me do my work, please. Now let's just read through. You've already read through it again. Would you like to take it to the floor and discuss it? Any discussion? Hearing no discussion. Did we actually bring it? Oh, I'm sorry. I spaced, my fault. So Article 6, somebody wants to bring it to the floor.
Sarah Shippey.
Thank you, Sarah, you're keeping me honest.
No problem. Shall the voters of the River Valley's Unified School District set the annual tuition rate for approved independent schools at $17,540 for the 2019-2020 school year?
Thank you, is there a second?
I'll second. Dave Clark from Wardsboro.
All right, it has been moved and seconded. I shall bring it to the floor. Any discussion? Hearing none, seeing none, shall we call the question?
Yes.
All in favor of Article 6? Shall the voters of River Valley's Unified School District set the annual tuition rate to approved independent schools for $17,540 for the 2019-2020 school year? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Thank you very much. Article 6 passes. Article 7. Article 7 says, shall the voters of River Valley's Unified School District approve mileage reimbursement at the federal reimbursement rate for the month in which the mileage occurred?
So moved. Victoria Capitani.
Moved by Mrs. Capitani,
Second. Sarah Shippey.
second by
Sarah Shippey.
Chair Shippey. Thank you. So it's been moved and seconded. Would somebody know what the mileage is now?
55 cents.
No. Just went up.
Go ahead.
58.
Excuse me? 58 cents per mile.
58 cents.
Is there any discussion? Yes.
Who will be applying for this mileage? I didn't understand to who it was referring.
You know, yeah, go ahead, John.
If the superintendent asks the school board to go up to Montpelier to testify, to participate in school board training, things of that nature, this would apply. Yes.
Any other questions? Hearing no further questions, are you ready for the question? Shall the voters of the River Valley Unified School District approve mileage reimbursement at the federal reimbursement rate for the month in which the mileage occurs? Currently, that rate is 58 cents a mile. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Thank you for voting. Now we continue on to the next page. You guys are doing a great job of keeping me on track. Thanks. All right. Article 8. Shall the voters of the River Valley's Unified School District authorize the school director to withdraw money from the Capital Reserve Fund to offset the homestead tax rate, but not more than $200,000? Again, John, would you mind explaining this because people don't understand?
We actually have the PowerPoint.
You have a PowerPoint you want to do?
Want to do that before?
Would you like to see the PowerPoint before we move this?
Yeah.
Go for it.
Okay.
Should we go down to?
Yeah, definitely.
You got out of it this time, John. Bill?
He's here. Pass him out.
Yeah, there's only 20. We have hard copies if you guys want of this presentation.
So, we felt that this was really important.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, listen up. Mr. Warner, please.
So, in the past, Dover for the last several 20 years has always moved some money from the reserves to help offset the homestead tax rate. Wardsboro started doing that last year, and we thought for some people it's a new concept, so we thought this would be a quick way to just go through it. So Lori Garland, the business manager, worked on this with us, and we presented this at a school board meeting about a month ago, but we were able to update some stuff. So,
Rich, before you start, can you explain the homestead tax rate?
Okay,
Many
so-
people do not know what that is.
So the state of Vermont with Act 68 went to two separate tax rates. There's a homestead tax rate and a non-homestead tax rate. A homestead tax rate is your house and 2 acres that you live in as a permanent place. And there's some little variables in there, but everything else is non-homestead. So if you have a rental apartment, if you have a business, if you have commercial property, if you have 100 acres of land, your house and the first 2 acres are considered your homestead. The other 98 acres are considered non-homestead. Does everybody get that concept? Is everybody good with that? Real simple?
Thanks.
So we all pay, as residents, we pay on our homestead. Now, a lot of people also pay based on your income, but that just adds a lot of confusion. So we want to, everybody always asks about tax rate. So if we go to that first slide. So how do we get to, first thing we determine, the state does, is a cost per student. So we take our total expenses, and the budget we're going to ask you to vote on March 5th is $5,346,131. There's offsetting revenues, that things that the state gives us some money for special ed reimbursement, they give us some transportation funds, any kind of money that comes into the school other than taxes is offsetting revenue. So we're projecting $558,256 in offsetting revenue, but that includes $200,000 in reserves. It sets us at education spending. This is how much they're going to tax to raise, and they need to raise $4,787,875 in tax, and it gives us a per pupil total number per pupils. So again, it's a weighted average, and everybody always gets a kick out of this because you see our average as of the 8th of February is 268.98 students. So I've always joked, if you have half a student, it depends how expensive they are. You know, if you get the top half or the bottom half or the front or the back or one side or the other. But that's the number of pupils we get. And our cost per student comes out at $17,800, okay? And that's a rough number. Not every student costs you $17,800. So our next page gets us to our unified tax rate. So our $17,800 per pupil expense, and the threshold set by the state for cost containment is $18,311. If we were over that, you pay a penalty. It's usually twice whatever your overage is. Luckily, we don't have any of that, so we just come out as a cost per pupil of $17,800. Next slide. So then they take the number, this is the $10,666, it's the per pupil, how much we get per pupil. And then the yield comes out with, it gives us a tax rate of $1.67 for the district. There's an 8-cent, remember when we were talking about merger, we said if they force us into a merger like Brattleboro and Putney and Dummerston, there is no incentive because we voted to merge. This year we get an 8-cent incentive, so it takes 8 cents off the tax rate. So it gives us a tax rate of $1.59. Next year that number will drop to 642 and then 0. So then, who does this tax rate affect? So it affects every person, such as homeowners, renters, retirees, parents, guardians, grandparents from Dover and Wardsboro. And how it affects you is your homestead property tax is based on the house and 2 acres, but there's also income sensitivity. It starts off, I believe, at 2%, and then it goes up or down based on how much your per pupil spending is. Next slide gets us in 2019, Dover was our CLA, is that's a common level of appraisal. So the listers put together a list every year and submit to the state, say this is what we think our grand list is. The state of Vermont says this is what we think your grand list is. The difference between the two is called the common level of appraisal. So if you look at Dover for 2019, we were at 103.84%. So that means that the listers have the properties in Dover valued roughly 3.84% higher than the state feels that they should be. In Wardsboro, it's 109.93. That was for last year. This year, Dover went down a little, where our listers are getting a little closer to what the state thinks. Wardsboro's went up quite a bit, almost 2%. So they're saying that the Wardsboro listers have them appraised higher. So what you do is you take your uniform tax rate and multiply it by your CLA, and that gives you your tax number, which should be on the next page. So over the last few years, Wardsboro's tax rates for 2015 is the bottom line. You were at $1.47.1, FY16 $1.48.2, $1.48.17, $1.41 in 18. But look what happened in 19. It's gone way down. Keep that in the back of your mind. We're going to tell you why in a couple minutes. And this year we're projecting $1.43, which is somewhat in line with the tax rates. If you look down, except for last year, there's a little anomaly last year, and we'll explain that. Next slide should be Dover's tax rates. And same thing in Dover. We've always shot for a tax rate at town meeting in Dover. We would talk to the voters, and they tell us kind of where they want us to shoot for a tax rate. They would allow us to move some money out of reserves. So we were at $1.49, $50, $50, $1.48, $1.46. We dropped a little last year. This would give us a tax rate of $1.54. So what happened in FY 2019? Two big things happened. One, Dover moved money from the reserve of $191,177 to bring the tax rate down, and Wardsboro used $81,000. So it's a total of almost $300,000 for the two towns. So it brought Wardsboro's tax from $1.49 to $1.42, and it brought Dover from $1.62 to $1.51, which is right in line with what we want to be, about that $1.50. Then we submit everything to them in May, to the state. Remember last year the legislature and the governor had a little fight about taxes and money, and there was, it wasn't until sometime in June they decided. So the big number two factor was that the governor proposed $58 million in one-time money to avoid increase in property tax rates for the property for the year beginning July of last year. So it changed the yield from $9,842 to $10,160, which gave us more money per pupil, which dropped the rates. We had already filed what we kind of had projected. In Dover, if we had known that, we probably would have been a little bit closer to $1.51 because that's what we usually move for. So the next slide gets us to, so the impact of the governor's one-time money brought the rate in Dover from $1.51.1 to $1.46, and from $1.42.7 in Wardsboro to $1.37. Had a little bit bigger impact in Wardsboro. So that's why what we kind of see is if you look at both Dover and Wardsboro, we've been kind of leveling tax rate, little variance, but last year there was a drop. So what we're proposing for this year is that if we move, tax rate's going to be roughly $1.68 before any reserves. If we move the $200 in reserves, we're at $1.59. So the tax rate would look like in Dover at $1.54, and in Wardsboro is $1.43. So in Dover, you're looking at about 8 cents higher. In Wardsboro, you're looking at 6 cents higher. But we feel that's a good number because if you were to draw a straight line with all the tax rates, that kind of keeps you in that line. It would be really difficult for us to get down to where last year's tax rate was unless the legislature and the governor find another $58 million somewhere. So if any of you find $58 million laying on the side of the road, please call the governor and let him know you got it. The legislature, maybe they can buy it down. So our recommendation in the way we wrote the article is that we ask you to allow us to move $200,000 out of the reserves to bring us a tax rate. And again, this is based on today's knowledge. Remember, just like last year, the legislature isn't done yet. They haven't set any rates. They haven't set the yield. They haven't set a property tax rate. They haven't said how much they're going to move. And they haven't locked down the students. We had a real scare about 3 weeks ago because after we set the budget, we were told that we were 15 students under what we were the previous year. And that would have made a huge difference. Luckily, Rick Thorpe said, I know those students are out there somewhere, so Lori went looking for them, and between Tammy and Matt, they found us a bunch of students that were missing. So we're actually now at a pretty good number. We are down a little lower. The other thing is, part of the law last year allows us to keep phantom students, and phantom students are students that, aren't on the, every year the legislature said you can only drop so many students, a percentage. And if you had a greater drop than that, you were capped at that lower drop. But that kept compounding itself. So last year, that number all went away and we went to the actual number of students. So it did have a little bit of effect on us because both towns were carrying some phantom students. Those are, again, students you can't see or hear, find. But again, Tammy did find a couple of them in that. They pulled their inner phantom finder and found us a few more. So that's what we're recommending to you, that you approve this article. And this is the tax rate we're going to shoot for. Again, it does depend on what the legislature does and what the governor signs and what agreements that come out. So we passed out the little booklet. I thought it was a pretty good brief description. Is there any questions?
Can you tell us approximately how much capital reserves the River Valley?
Yes, I'm sorry. So again, we're not real sure because we're moving different budgets in together, but it looks to be about $600,000 right now in reserves. But we also had both agreed to move money last year. The Dover was almost $200,000, Wardsboro was in the almost $90,000. And what we're finding is that both our budgets are running under what we're projecting. But again, we don't know. We still don't have the audit cleared up from last year, so we don't know what reserves go back and forth in Dover from last year. Wardsboro, because Lori does the book, she has a little bit better handle on that. Their audit's done. Ours isn't in Dover. But what happens is under Act 46, I'm sorry, I get 20 acts. Any surpluses that either town has just gets lumped in together. So we're projecting to start about $600,000. And again, in Dover, we've always asked for no more than a third to be spent in any one year. And Dwight, wherever Dwight is working with we had a reserve study done on our buildings. And we're also, there's some other stuff that we're gonna be talking about with the focus of the Wardsboro School. So we're gonna spend some money there too, so that's why we think that 200,000 is a good number, not to use all the reserves in one year.
Rich, could you explain once again, or Bill, the purpose of the capital reserve fund and where it cannot be spent?
Yeah, so in Dover, we have 4 or 5 different reserves. Wardsboro just has a single reserve. So reserves are usually can be identified for specific uses, or they can be specified for general usages. So in Dover, we have a vehicle reserve because we have buses, we have a building reserve, we have a general reserve, we have an equipment reserve, and then we have some money that came from different sources that we kind of left off to the side because it was meant to be spent on specific items. Wardsboro just has theirs in their general fund. We were concerned in Dover several years ago that the state may see too big a reserve and say, hey, that's our money, we want it back. So that's why we broke it up. So for right now, we're just going to recommend that all the money go into this reserve, and then next year, when we're having this meeting and we're up here talking to you, we're going to recommend where some money goes. We're going to do a building reserve, and that can only go to building improvement. We may have other reserves depending on how much money we have that we can talk to you about. But the one thing we've always done in Dover, and I believe in Wardsboro, in the consensus of the board here, is that, it's not our money to spend, it's your money, and you tell us how you want it spent. So we don't ever spend the money without getting approval from you folks, or from the electorate.
Go ahead.
900,000, not 600,000.
I'm sorry, 900,000, yes.
Question?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Given that there are still some variables with the state that are undetermined, like what the final number for the yield will be, does 200,000 give you enough? And I think particularly if the governor decides or gets the legislature to agree to fund certain pet projects that he has, and the yield gets driven down instead of up this year, is 200,000 give you enough flexibility if all of a sudden we're looking at the tax rate going up more to $1.60 or $1.50 in Wardsboro's case?
So what we did is we also just, and I wasn't sure if we should hand this out or not because I didn't want to confuse you more, but why don't we do this? It's
You've been doing it for 20 years.
there's confusing. There's 2 pages here. So what we did was we just kind of played with it a little bit. So on the first page, it says all tax rates estimated based on the equalized pupil numbers of 268. And what we did was we just said, okay, if you put 200,000, what would the tax rate be? And we did 250 and 300,000. And it does bring the numbers down, but that kind of was to give you, because we weren't sure what we were going to recommend. We had a brief meeting tonight before this meeting because we still didn't have the equalized pupils at our last school board meeting, River Valley's meeting. So we weren't sure what we were going to be proposing because we wanted to get that tax rate kind of in the same area that it would have been had the governor not brought the rate down last year. So there are some other numbers. So Randy, I really don't know. We usually have been pretty good with what we recommend, getting us close. Again, if something, Rick said it earlier, we can't make any guarantees because we don't make the rules.
So my point would be, we could always amend this to be a higher number. It doesn't mean you would have to spend to that number. Is that correct?
That's correct, but if you were to do that, I would want some direction from the people tonight on what the tax rate you would like to see, or where you would like to roughly see the tax rate, so that we know. So let's say you approve 300,000, but everything stays the same, and 200 will get us to that tax rate we were showing you earlier, and that's the tax rate you folks are comfortable with, then we would stay with that. I've always had a concern, we've always had a pretty good reserve, and I've always been scared that at some point somebody's gonna say, hey, let's just dump that whole $1 billion into cutting our taxes for 1 year. And unfortunately, there's a diminishing return. Once you get to a certain number, no matter how much more you put in, it doesn't drop the tax rate anymore. You bottom out your tax rate. So that would be a discussion, and the board did not have that discussion. The board did not have another number in mind. We're going to recommend the 200,000.
Are there any further questions? I'd like to compliment you on a very clean and well-presented survey of what the problem is, and thank Bill for being here to keep us honest. Any further questions? Would you like me to move the article? Shall the voters of the River Valley Unified School District authorize the school directors to withdraw money from the capital reserve fund to offset the homestead tax rate, but not more than $200,000? Any further questions? Would you like me to call the question?
Move the question, please.
We didn't move the article.
Move the article.
No, you let me do the presentation.
That's right. Yeah, written. Okay, that's my fault, not his. Would we please move the Article 8?
I move the article, Victoria Captain.
Thank you. Second,
Second.
Carol Backus. It has been moved and seconded that the voters of the River Valley Unified School District authorize the school directors to withdraw money from the capital reserve fund to offset the homestead tax rate, but not more than $200,000. Are you ready for the question?
Yes.
All in favor signify by saying yes.
Yes.
Or aye. All opposed? Hearing none, seeing none. Article 8 is passed. As you notice, Articles 9 through 12 will be brought forth on March 5th by Australian ballot in your own town, either Wardsboro or Dover. Do you have any questions about that? Yes, ma'am.
I'm not up to date on who is retiring that we need to fill those positions for.
Oh, which directors are
Yeah.
retiring
Yeah.
from
So
the district?
in Dover, it's Laura Sibilia,
Okay.
and she is running. She's on the ballot in Dover. And in Wardsboro, it's your very own
Yeah,
Rick Thornton. And he's on the ballot
I
also.
believe so. Right, Jackie?
What's that?
Did you get all my paperwork?
I did. You're on the ballot.
You threw it all
It
out.
was suspicious, though. It was suspicious.
Well, I tacked it to a door.
Nita, sorry, who was the second one?
Rick Thornton.
Nita?
Could you,
Yeah.
can we request that Andy explain about early voting and absentee voting and when those ballots will be available and when they're due?
Yes,
please?
ma'am. Andy, would you please answer the ladies? Thanks.
Sure. Thank you, Anita. So your absentee ballots are ready. They're in the Wardsboro Town Clerk's office and in the Dover Town Clerk's office. And when you're ready to vote absentee, you can request an absentee ballot and vote absentee. We're ready now.
Either come in or
Come in or, yeah,
will you mail it?
we can mail it. Yeah.
And the deadline?
And the deadline is the day before the election.
Well, it has to be there to be counted, but can't
Yeah.
they come in, bring it in that day? or-
According to the law,
You can bring it with you to the polls if you like.
But
Yeah.
it has to be there, one way or the other.
Yes.
it has to
that's
be there
correct.
the morning of the town meeting in preference, before the meeting even starts, so that they can start organizing their collections and getting things ready.
What's that?
Has to be there early.
Yeah, the ballot needs to be in the hands of you guys that are being brought in. All right, the ones people are just coming and voting, you know, that's, obviously they just come and vote.
Yeah. so for
But they gotta get them in
Wardsboro,
early in the morning, they don't just bring them, you know, and say, well, we'll drop it off tomorrow.
We will open the polls till 10, so everybody's gonna sit around patiently for an hour waiting to vote.
Gotcha.
Good time to bring the snacks.
Yeah. If we get snacks, are you coming?
What?
Are you coming if we get good snacks?
I'll be there.
You are such a weasel.
I'm supporting the team.
Article 14. We need to open this article before I forget. So opened by Carol Hayes.
Is it-
And here's the article. Shall the voters adjourn and reconvene at Dover and Wardsboro for Australian ballot voting on town
Are we
meeting
going
day?
through everything on 13?
No.
Well, what about 9
Yeah,
and 9
we
through
need to-
12 too? Can we just touch on that if there's any questions?
I already asked them.
Oh.
No questions.
All right. So did you move it now, please?
Yes,
Second,
this is for Article 13, folks.
Article 14.
Did you cover everything in 13?
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, we'll do Article 14. So Article 13, any other business that may be legally addressed, review Board of Directors meeting locations and dates, review the work done by the Board of Directors to this date, review the work calendar of the Board of Directors through September of 2020, review of the Wardsboro School focus, and any other concerns that may be legally discussed.
So if I could just run through real quick, what we've done in the past, and I would imagine we're going to do in the future, is we always meet the first Monday of the month in Wardsboro and the third Monday of the month in Dover at 7 o'clock. To date, we got you a budget. We're hopefully having a vote. We've got these articles, and we did the annual meeting. We've looked at a focus. We decided to keep the two schools the same as they are for 1 year while we work on a focus for Wardsboro. That seemed to be the major consensus that everybody liked. We do have a work calendar that we're working on. I was hoping to have it done by now, but we will, the next couple board meetings, come up with our what work needs to be done. There's things such as if you think you may want to utilize the school choice within the district. If you live in Dover and want to go to the Wardsboro building, Wardsboro School, there's an application process you have to go through the superintendent's office. We're trying to work on transportation and maybe do a little bit more budget work for a little tighter budget next year. So we're hoping to do that. And one of the things we charged our administrator and the superintendent, our administrators with, is looking at a focus for the Wardsboro. Like Dover focuses on IB now. And there's several projects that have been going on with that. And if you have any questions after the meeting, Bill and Tammy are here and they can kind of let you know where that's going. But we're hoping to make some presentations and make some decisions in the next couple months, so that starting this summer, that if there's additional training needed for the staff at the Wardsboro School, that we can start doing that. And in the budget, we did put some extra money in for training in Wardsboro for whatever focus may be determined.
Rich, can you explain to the voters why we have a different focus, what IB is, what that stands for, and why we're looking at a focus in particular for Wardsboro?
Does anybody want an explanation of that, or?
I know it's been in the paper.
That you will provide it.
Oh, just Carrie? I'm gonna make her do it. So Dover has the IB program. It's something we've been working on for several years. We had a previous administrator that was just too energetic and was always trying to pull us in different places. So IB is an international baccalaureate program, and it's based on, it's not a program like you get a can and you read the items in the program, but it's a teaching style and a learning style, which is inquiry-based, which is not the teacher always teaching. It's a student saying, I want to do a project in a certain area, I want to study something, and then they work with the student to do that. It's almost student-led direction. Some people thought it would be a good thing to just do that in Wardsboro. One of the things that did happen while we were meeting with people to look at different school structures is we said, two schools so close together that have the same grades or are teaching the exact same items, it's a little harder to justify than if we had two different focuses. And there's some school districts up north that are doing the same thing. They have 3 elementary schools all within several miles of each other. So they are all having a different focus. And we really like that idea. And people in Wardsboro seem to really appreciate that. So that's the area we're moving. IB was one of the topics for focus. But right now it appears as though there's some other things that are some other programs that may be more of our focus. And again, if you want more specifics, we will be doing more presentations on that, and you can please get involved. Both Bill, Matt, and Tammy are going to be working on that probably for another 3 or 4 months before a final decision's made. or final decisions presented to the board, and then the board will make a decision and then charge the administrator with moving that forward. Is everybody good with that?
Thank you.
It's hard to see all out there.
Yeah, these lights are going.
Shut them off.
Yeah, it's hard to
They
get.
were
Tried.
Article 13 to be repeated. Any other business that may be legally addressed? Review Board of Directors meetings, locations, and dates, done. Review the work done by the Board of Directors to this date, done. Review the work calendar of the Board of Directors through September 2020, done. Review of the Wardsboro School Focus, done. And any other concerns? Yes, ma'am.
It's not a concern, it's a question. Article 10, I think, says that if we approve the change, Wardsboro will elect their board members from the floor. But at what meeting?
The town meeting.
Town meeting.
Well, it says-
But annual town, I mean,
Yeah.
is the school board still gonna have a meeting?
Yes. Not the Wardsboro board, because there'll be no more Wardsboro board. Like, there'll be no more Dover board. There'll just be the River Valley board.
Yeah.
But the,
Right, so town meeting is the meeting when the select board lists officers. So are we gonna add a unified
yes,
school
If that passes.
If that
passes.
if that passes? And
Yes.
if it doesn't, we'll continue to do
It'll
the,
be by ballot.
about at town meeting.
And again, this was mainly because Wardsboro was always elected from the floor, and there was a lot of people that wanted to keep that tradition, and Dover's always elected by ballot. So we felt it was appropriate that if Wardsboro wanted that, that should be open to them. We weren't allowed to do that in the original Articles of Agreement for whatever reason, but we are allowed to change it.
Right, I
So-
understand that, but we need to understand that somebody's gonna tell the board of selectmen to add, if it passes,
Right,
to add
That
that.
following year.
Otherwise, we wouldn't know that.
Yes.
Good point,
We haven't.
thank you.
I add to that?
Yes, ma'am. Somebody had a hand up there, I think. Or were you scratching your nose?
I'm knitting.
Okay,
She's knitting a hat.
Rich, can I add to that? Can I just add to that?
Yes, go ahead.
So Jackie makes a good point. So if this passes, the representative from Wardsboro we voted on at town meeting, but we'll no longer obviously be having the meeting on the Monday night. So it would mean that the vote for the representative would be at town meeting day.
Yes.
Right, just want to make that clear.
And then, so to
Right.
add to that,
Yeah.
if we vote the budget from the floor, will that be at the River Valleys?
Yeah, that would be at this
Yes.
meeting.
Only the representative would be on the warning.
So what would happen is it'd be just like town meeting in either town, but at this meeting, we would be addressing Dr. Backus, would be saying, okay, I need somebody to move it on to the floor.
Everyone remembers.
Yeah. And then we have a second, then we could have a discussion about it, and if people thought it was too low, they could increase it, you can make a motion, you can have a discussion. And both towns have, their history is voting the budgets from the floor. That's why we brought that back up. Again, the initial budget had to be voted on by ballot for whatever reason, but we are allowed to change it. And I'd like to thank Andy McLean and you, our two town clerks, and then our River Valley's clerk, Andy, spent a lot of time researching this to see what we had to do to change it, to make sure we did everything right. There was actually an opinion that we could actually probably vote on it at this meeting, but it would be stronger if we voted on it by ballot, and it would make it like ironclad and nobody could argue it.
Any further questions or comments?
Just one more point I'm assuming in that article of agreement, I haven't read them for a while, that this River Valley's annual meeting is set for a Tuesday in February or whatever?
Second Tuesday in February, yes.
Is it like the second Tuesday of February always?
Yes. And what we did was we said odd number of years in Wardsboro and even number of years in Dover, just because we wanted to have the initial meeting in Wardsboro because the governor was coming down to see the Wardsboro students.
And was there a purpose in doing it before town meeting, or, because, I mean, you look at the weather tonight and you wonder if February is a great.
We've had 3 feet of snow in March at town meeting before too. I mean, it's Vermont, and it's hard to pick a night that you can guarantee the weather's gonna be good.
A year in advance.
Yeah, years in advance.
Years in advance.
We had a lot of, I know there, when Jane Chadwick was chairman of select board, and I was chairman of school board in Dover, we had a 3.5-foot snowstorm. We couldn't have the highway people there. A lot of people couldn't make it, but, at that time, we chose that we should run the meeting because it's hard to let people know that town meeting's canceled.
I think we
And then
did
how do you
the same
pick,
thing.
how do you
That
pick
year.
another day? So it was the same with this is, it's a difficult decision, but it's not really our decision, it's the voters' decisions. They either come or they don't.
You can petition.
And again, if somebody feels aggrieved that something that we voted on tonight wasn't proper and there would have been a different vote had there been better weather, they can always petition it, and ask for a reconsideration.
Any further comments or questions on Article 13? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, seeing none, Article 13 passes. Now on to Article 14 that I was so anxious to get to, I guess. Shall the voters adjourn and reconvene at Dover and Wardsboro for Australian ballot voting on town meeting day? Needs to be moved and seconded.
I'll move the article.
Are you ready for the question? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, seeing none, Article 14 passes. I would like to thank you all for being here, for being civil with each other. And I think these board people, and Jackie and Andy Needy and Bill Anton,